Never. Can't tell if the mic, oh, there we go, it's working. Oh, yeah, this are 4 o'clock, right? All right, no one's in Zoom. I'm gonna unmute anyway, though. And did you already start recording? Okay, cool. All right, it's about 4. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll get started.
I told the girls I was gonna explain to them or have them go first, so they don't have to stay
Sure.
past like 4:30. But also explain to them those headlines or those headings or whatever you call them, they're not static, so like they can change. And oftentimes we started talking that we're like, that's not the right name for that, let's quit it. But really what I asked them to do is think about things from the office perspective, policies, things that they either know we need to have, or maybe a goal for the office, something that they want to do. And I said that they could go first and then we'll kind of fill in the holes after the fact. So Erica has one, which I think is a great idea. She just finished her 2 weeks of training. And during that 2 weeks of training, she came up, there was a couple, or at least one thing that came up. So I'm gonna let her go first.
Yeah, one of the things that, so they were talking about the emergency plans, but, that was for disaster, but one of the first mentioned that, a year ago, one of their DPW guys killed himself in the garage. They found it one day later, and she said, 1 year later, we are being fined by, Fish. And she said, we not call my phone, and we call everybody that we were supposed, but we find out this until this year, 1 year later.
What's PESH?
OSHA group.
Okay, but it's public employee OSHA, okay.
That's my question, do we have an employee emergency plan? So who we call, is in what organization?
So was the lawsuit like because they didn't handle the incident? correct?
Lawsuit, was that fine?
Oh, fine, I'm sorry. So did they like not notify the next of kin properly, or that was the?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is what you do if this
I
happens.
see,
So
okay.
she's recommending like an employee emergency plan, and the group that they gave her an example of one.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we could use that to start from.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
It's a video from Cuba. I don't know. Yeah, the time, okay. So that the clerk was nice. I texted her today. She sent me their policies on, and she sent that in Word too, for documents, so you want to edit it, and then we can not just.
So do you want to add that employee emergency plan under emergency plan? And then we also talked about we need to do like a natural disaster emergency. It's like
It's even weird, and I found the emergency plan back when the beginning of COVID.
But I thought we couldn't find it.
I don't know that we did. We didn't have any documentation for when the snowstorms hit. And so we just kind of, I mean, I think our plan was a fine one. The cops and the fire seemed happy that we had this open. They never used it. But we basically had this place open with the heat on and the TV set up to just run like Christmas movies. If somebody got rescued and they couldn't get back to their house, they could stick them here. But like, we probably should have, for the 3 or 4 things: microburst, blizzard, ice storm.
Like the water damage down at the docks. Wasn't there a plan was there an emergency plan prior to that?
There used to be.
We-
There's a couple. There was. And we did, I think we addressed, well, we talked about it a lot this year, which is first you have communication piece, right? So
Right.
you've got to have a communication plan regardless of the actual emergency. You've got to be able to reach everyone. What's that communication plan look like? Facebook, LinkedIn, village website, whatever it is. You got to identify that, adopt it and implement it. Then 2, I think there's an emergency plan for a snowstorm or
They county has
They
one, and
have
I
one, the
thought we
county
had to
did.
have one Joel being the old chief of the fire department here.
Right.
there was an emergency plan. There must be one
Yeah.
filed with the county, every town, village or whatever, but we don't. From what I understood, we didn't know. we
There,
don't have a
yeah,
copy
the county one, this came up because we didn't have access to those grants, remember? And the county is apparently now, it's still like a years-long process going through the hazard mitigation planning. And then part of that is every municipality within the county has to come up with one as well. So that it, at least according to the county, last time I spoke with them, they said they are pursuing this now and it should be coming up in the next year or so. But I think if we can find the old ones we had and just make sure that like, we'll read through them, update what needs to be updated and think about, are we missing anything obvious? I mean, frankly,
You wanna add it on there.
I think just for emergency,
That's
Yeah.
But it maybe,
I would just put hazard mitigation planning and that I think. Yeah, that comes up and like, there's a lot of little things in there, but for me,
Identify, refine, update, you know.
yeah, if we can't find it, we gotta start from
I did
scratch.
that plan, like in 2005. It's
Right.
here somewhere.
Right.
We got it.
But we gotta find
This is
it.
a really good, better sort of layout. Layout plan from, Allegheny County. Because it talks about what you become, right? So when an emergency hits. You know, we lose our current titles and you become other things, right? Much used. And it's required now, the state of New York, SEMO would be a good lead on this too, state emergency manager. So the mayor has a role and a few other people have roles and everybody must abide by the new plans that drop down, right? But it's all in a plan, all right?
we just need to find the one that we
Yeah,
have
the
and
old one
update
is
it,
some,
refine
the old
it.
one is somewhere you can, and
This
it's
is
mostly
the-
that's contact.
That's
but,
the
yeah,
important one that.
But that's
Yeah.
really good for all, you know? We can add the color commentary on the different kinds of disasters, I mean,
Yeah.
that's easy to do, but.
Yeah,
Identify previous emergency plans as a step.
Yep.
Consolidate that into some kind of playbook.
Yep.
Then we need to strategically over the course of the next, year or so. Pick two or three, update it, refine it.
Yep.
Put it back away.
And the reason that we got that done, it was a mandate to do it back then. I was doing it because I was also the Red Cross guy and I had those plans. But the other key is tangential to that is our events. Don't actually have a safety plan attached to them. And we have events that are bigger than bread boxes for, like Can-Am, like Brew York. There's like 3 or 4. We have, every time there's a run, we don't have any safety. We really just kind of wing it. But we ought to have a safety plan. And it would be an offshoot of a major plan. So when we have small events, everybody's got to
If you
sign.
want
up
it
on a
written
safety-
up, there is a plan, things are being done, but maybe it's not formalized.
Gotta be
Is that what you mean?
formalized.
yeah, I mean, the guys are
Everybody's
just,
on the same page.
they've done it every year, right? So Lynn knows what to
That's right.
do and John knows what to do.
But when,
But we don't necessarily, if you said to me, or really probably any of us, let's say a car goes through the barrier and hits somebody, what changes? It's like, who does what? And it's like, well, we all probably just wing it because we don't have a
Right.
formula out.
Water
He's
treatment plant gets
exactly right.
poisoned by a terrorist.
Dude, weird shit has happened.
I mean, so
but
what's?
that's,
You know, like it could, there are wild things, but I think,
well, I
We
mean, you're not
need
gonna.
those plans out
And
there.
you're not
gonna be able to anticipate
Everything.
No,
you keep them generic.
the plan really, and the burden is really on the organizers too. They need to be able to say, and we've contacted and we have an agreement with EMS, or we have this and that.
They do that though on the.
They do, but it's still, there's not like a standard. They just say like, we know about it and we're not concerned. So they're not, it's very ad hoc.
Add something to that.
I mean, I don't think.
I would
we
just
get
put,
into
I would
the
just put
weeds.
event and emergency
Event, yeah.
planning, you could put event.
Part of that, probably get into the playbook or the handbook or whatever. Is roles and responsibilities like you were talking about, Mark, before, like, I forget again. Ice storm, Alex, boom, you go straight to Facebook, Mark, boom, you go straight to the website.
Right,
Ladies, your actions, in case of an ice storm, what do you do? And we all have those roles,
Yeah.
responsibilities already kind of hashed out, so it becomes muscle memory,
yes.
right?
So one a good example is, So Verizon, I talked to the guy for this construction. They're updating the antennas, but while I had the guy on, I asked him some questions about the service, because we had enough people here for the 4th of July that the towers shut down.
Right.
Zero service, the entire battlefield. And I was like, I walked down before the shop closed and I was like, well, like, there's no way for me to find Mary Grace. Like, it's impossible. If I go back to the shop, she'll be looking. So I sat near the giant flag and I was like, well, I hope she thinks to come. And she did find me eventually. But the thing that was concerning for me is if somebody has a heart attack or
Well, that.
God forbid there's ever a shoot, there's no, like, we have an ambulance there,
The only
but
thing they can do, they can use the SOS. That's the
it
one.
wouldn't dial out.
Wouldn't
I couldn't,
SOS
no, I couldn't
out?
dial out or text out
Oh,
because I tried that.
I had that.
And
I
it
was
showed
like,
SOS, but I think you might be able to call 911.
That's what I'm saying. You can
But
call
I,
911,
sure.
But
Um,
it's not enough. You're right.
right,
And I
like-
think that's a need. I.
So they,
Go ahead.
they brought a
Go ahead.
pig. I asked what the thing was because they bring it to Music Fest. It's a generator tower.
Yeah.
Hash out what
Sure,
exactly
that's fine.
That emergency plan needs to include.
Okay, just
But I want to make sure that they can still leave at 4:30. So I don't have to
Yeah.
interrupt you, But I want to make sure if there's.
to remind me to talk about the cell thing later because I'll forget.
Yes.
Um,
Shannon, can you think, I mean, we have policies, budget is probably your, area. We only have a couple of things. Begin budget process in January. Budget solicitations to the departments in February, is that?
mid-year review, right?
Did it go earlier, Shannon? I think maybe.
Then I can cross it and make sure it's in the.
I mean, we don't need to spec the detail, but we want to put the mid-year review up there.
No, I think February is okay.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything regarding maybe, I'm thinking with regard to budget, maybe thinking of a policy for end of month billing, every time that comes up. Do we want a policy or is that easy to just make a statement and say bill be begin by April? Or is that funny?
Well, I guess, that might be a good way to kick it off, is when we start the budget process, the first meeting includes a mid-year review, and that way we're not adding another thing.
Where it's-
They'll give us insight.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Box or something, okay.
Maybe we
So-
Is there anything else
in that first box.
We were just saying for the mid-year review, that's about when we start the process. So what if we just said the first budget meeting for next year is we start to the mid-year review and that gives us some trending.
With mid-year review.
I am for all my stuff, because actually I did it last month, because that was mid-year.
So
No.
is that what you're thinking? Make your review, begin budget process.
Well, I think there'll be the same meeting.
Yeah.
It's like, because that way it's like, it's about, we're not gonna want to do it in December.
Separate things is
Oh, yeah.
important to add.
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
Make sure that one of them. doesn't
That's,
get
yeah,
lost.
I'm just thinking it's a good way to not have to, because we're not gonna want to throw in another meeting in
Oh,
December.
no, one
Like,
meeting is fine. I just want to
yeah.
make sure that it's identified.
Um,
Else with regard to administration goals that you have for things that you have said, geez, I wish we had one of these, or no.
Think about, that's, training or certifications and things like that that you may need. That would be something that we would put up there.
I don't think we'll get to that. I don't know what's even out there, but.
Software, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad to put a bullet of like continual training, but that applies to everybody, all three of you guys, and you already do, but this isn't necessarily to just come up with stuff that we haven't been
No,
doing, but it's
I
also
agree.
to like
I just want to make a list of things you
stuff that
thought.
we're already working on routinely.
Yes.
I know Peggy, you and I talked about like closings come up and you have to handle them when they come up. It's not really something to put on here. But there is we understand like you guys have a base workload that is out of our or your control because it's driven by residents. But things that aren't like that, we just want to have all the projects listed so we can prioritize them.
Right.
As far as priority, the priorities of the day-to-day stuff.
Right.
Which is pretty much full-time. Now we're looking at, a little more free time in the winter with the full-time status. Which is what we were hoping for trying to get some things done. You know, we've all talked, about several things, where we're doing the filing system, and it's been a long process. And we want to bring the rest of the documents over from the visitor center in October, after the tax season. So that we can start those, and that could be our major project to.
Digitalization of the previous.
No, we're not even digital.
Right.
We have to just organize.
Get them filed first. And there are grants for digitization once they do that.
Okay, why are you organizing and filing visitor?
That's
center?
not their files. It's just
Oh.
our, it's, we use the annex as storage.
Wait,
No, it's just that they have an attic and we don't.
okay,
So, I mean,
Okay.
we now have the filing evidence to hold the bulk of it, so we have to go through each one of them and reorganize it, label it, index it, and.
You need to talk to Jen Gaffney about getting some detention kids in here.
Oh, that would, we can't do that, and have other people that don't know the system.
There.
I know we talked about, and it's too late to do it now, but perhaps next year plan for a summer work person. Through the Jefferson County.
It's
We did that.
Workplace.
workplace, yeah.
We did that, a few years ago, and they did the map storage that we are currently using, and we are redoing this year. So
That's, yeah.
So this is one of my hesitations in getting.
Help.
What about the green thumb program? Would that
There's an intern
be?
program through JCC too. I know the business office staff, they need interns.
Seniors,
They need
yeah.
placement.
RSVP, it's all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Their business.
It all depends on what you task them with.
They
You don't
need
wanna
an intern placement.
redo or undo what you
Yeah.
have them do.
That's true.
That would be beneficial, because that's what they're going to school to do. Sherry Ditch used to do it. She was the person that placed all of those kids. I don't know if I think she retired, but I'm sure they still do it.
Well, that's something that we could look at for something like it, but, you know, in the meantime, I just want to give you the overview.
I think the council will become organize archived files, bring them over, organize them,
Right,
and then maybe sometime down the road to be digitalize them,
right.
and put them on the website.
If we had somebody, once they're organized and
Yeah.
trained, it'd be easier to have somebody else in.
And there, we talked about that last year. There was a grant for that. But you had said basically, like, we have a huge step before we can even, yeah.
That's right.
Being ready to digitize their reviews.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of digital records that we have problems on because every one of the predecessors uses a different filing system and a computer system.
Yeah.
And so we are going back in, you know, it's in time, and assigning it a naming protocol, putting it into a searchable format. And
Why don't we come up with a better system that doesn't change with the predecessor? That seems like that's a lot of extra
that's
work.
what we're doing.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, that's what we're trying to combine all of the different numbering systems.
Yeah.
Just
Just don't make a fourth one.
Do we have a record retention policy?
Yes,
So we
What was the last
we know what we want to
update, do you
do,
know?
so.
when was it last?
That's something.
Updated.
It's the New York State one, I think it was,
2 weeks. So
Need to
is,
be looked at when
No,
we're
no,
doing policy.
It's, you actually, approve it every year. in December.
that's what I couldn't remember. I was trying to look for that. Because that's important, because really some of the village files over there, maybe
Exactly.
it might be time, they can go,
Most
yeah.
of the ones that we're holding
Yeah.
Are planning board.
Right, those wouldn't, right,
and
those are different.
Those are rare. So, you know, we have to clean them up. But Jim didn't like the retention policy, so he's been fighting things, so gonna be a bunch of other. Maybe that would, but,
We got the tasks, bring them over, recap, bring them over,
Mike might not.
organize, and digitalize.
and then after it's digital.
Yes, that'll be the three things you have to do.
Yeah.
That would be the strategic plan
Right.
for,
That sounds like a 3-year
Yeah.
strategic plan on that
Oh, no,
side.
no, that's just organizing it, because we have to organize the digital files that we already have. Before we start adding more into it. So just 3 years to organize what we've already got is gonna be a major project.
okay. Good enough. But that's that mark on the wall, we need to know we're fully digital. All of our previous archive, board meetings and current,
Those
5 years.
5 years,
You have five?
Dr. Erica.
Well, that, yeah, so physically getting them, it would be like a short term,
This fall, like the winter. time.
yeah.
This October,
Yeah.
so that we can get them out before. snow.
You guys are gonna take that back room and make it like a filing room or something, just a processing room or something? Cause otherwise, I mean, you guys don't have a ton of room to blow up paperwork in the office.
So,
The problem is that we have to be in,
Sure.
so we'll work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, one project that we're working on. Another one is the 911 system, the addressing system. I'm doing 3 more today. Changing the addresses, and the one gentleman that was just in here is gonna be buying. What's going to be 407 West Washington Street, which is right next to the town court.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I've been pulling up the lot and then the tax ID number, it just came to my attention that 411 West Washington Street, which is the address for the town board, is not listed as 411. So rather than change all of the court related documents, change 405 to 411.
what's the project?
So
What's the project we're looking at?
the project is
Comprehensive.
at the 911 system and fixing it.
So updating it.
Updating.
Yeah, basically reviewing and updating all the addresses in the whole village. Which will, not everyone will change, but enough that it'll be.
Not that people are gonna complain. There are streets in the barracks that the county does not know.
Okay, no, that's fair, that's good, that's a good way.
I know the 911 address still thinks mine's 108.
Okay, that probably is a priority over your, organization of your files.
Well, it's all, I've been threatening them for a while now to get everything organized, get everything ready. Pull the trigger and retire, so.
So we have organized all those files that are over there, the 911 address update review. Is there?
And I would like to work with, the.
EMS, yeah.
Right.
And get their input on this, because they are the ones.
Oh, work with them on that 911 system.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to you also have to plan for like future builds, right? That's part of the problem is there's been empty lots that were between 405 and 403. And then somebody builds a house and it's 403B or, it just starts to get weird, or it's 415 and it's out of place.
Dodge Avenue, I mean, there should be 10 blocks on Dodge Avenue. With all of the flag lots that are coming up behind it. We need more numberings on Dodge Avenue. It's only 3 blocks long. Now.
Yeah.
So we have to address that. Which is gonna make a lot of people really unhappy, so. When they come to the village board, they do not need to change and get a new mortgage. They a simple address change. The mortgage company will take care of that.
I mean, to me, it's like, I understand that it's a pain because it's like, but also it's more of a pain when you don't get an ambulance in time.
Right.
And I'd rather have everybody pissed off ahead of time. a little bit than have somebody really who had a stroke and would have been fine if the response time was better.
Called. and Tried to change the theater in there. And he's like, it's always been this number, and it's, okay, okay, you know, I didn't change it at that point. But you remember. When you are working over there and you have a heart attack, you just, I'm listening enough to tell the 911 operator that no, the number says 129, but of course it's.
Has it been updated? No. I'm good, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. I mean, it's not your last question later. Okay, good, that's good, project. All right,
Okay.
anything else?
Well, after we get everything, all of the current stuff organized, we have to digitize the ancient ones.
I mean, if there's a 10-year backlog, we could just wait. Just digitize what you're working on now and,
Oh, no, that's what we're.
right,
So.
the longer it takes, the less you gotta do.
That's our.
We're good.
Okay.
Called though, the old things, like those books, where it is a big book this big. And it goes across lines like that, we don't have the capacity to do that here, digitize that. Well, we also have to do the maps and all of the.
That probably will be in the digitization grant where like we have subcontract out to professionals who have the big scanner and the automatic page flipper, because otherwise.
Do we have a need for? Didn't we have somebody come to a board meeting that wanted those plans online?
Yeah. Yes, actually,
Well,
those could be.
Yeah, we can get, BCA can give us the digital version.
Yeah.
Because we
I mean,
did
it's clumsy to look at because you have to,
us for them. I didn't know if.
Yeah.
Well,
Need a point or like-
Nowadays, we ought to not just, we simultaneously to getting any big plans.
We should ask.
We ought to also get the digital plans and then they can be emailed out to request. At any
And we can
time.
Or you could put it on the website.
And put them on the.
they're
web.
hard to view when they're that big, right? Because it's like, you can only read it if it's
That's
that big,
right.
so you can only see this, and you have to pan around, but it's better than nothing.
Right, I
Okay,
mean,
yeah.
that's
But they're-
beyond our capability.
Yeah, it's just like, they're difficult to read because they're,
But it's
highly
an
detailed.
answering a request and so. they
Right.
can
Yeah.
use it.
Person asked, but I remember them asking and they're like.
We've had a few people, yeah, who are like, where can I, and I just tell them to come in here.
But maybe that's an inconvenience, so if we could get it on there, and we did have a digital.
Yeah, we don't,
Didn't know if we had a
so
need for something.
anything being produced or printed now, we don't need to digitize because it's already on the computer. So we just need them to send us the digital version instead of just printing it.
I tried to put it in the website.
Yeah.
But that file is too big.
It's
Okay.
too big, that's another
It's
problem.
too big.
Did you message,
Yeah.
Kevin,
Put it in a zip
Herman?
file? Can you make it a zip file?
Okay, you can-
Embed that,
Yeah, make
or
it
no?
a PDF.
We can host it that way, but in order for it to be viewable on the web, ask the Proud City support people, because they'll have an answer. Because it's not an uncommon, like you remember with the live view, they answered right away. I'm sure some other, they specialize in municipalities. So one of their other people has definitely said, how do we put our big engineering drawings on the site? And the answer is either a different extension they can plug in for us, or it may just be zip files and then you have to open it on your desktop. So it's not viewable from the web, but they'll, what do you mean? No, not BCA, the Proud City. Oh, oh, sure. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that they may also. Yeah,
That's another option.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That might be-
Is there anything else from you ladies that we need to, keep in mind when we're doing this?
That's all we can.
Okay. Anything else from you, Erica?
The only thing that would be, I would go work on that 911 down and that's something major. That's really, because, I want to learn too how to do it, if you don't know how to do it, we need to get on top of that. People don't want to.
I think.
So that's more of a priority, I feel like, than the filing. Would you agree?
It's all,
But 911, that could mean life or death to somebody if the address is wrong. I wonder if just there's a bigger priority for that or not.
I would like to start that, and I would like to go out and do the preliminary stuff. I've actually done.
That's your prerogative. I
So do we
think-
put 911
Yeah.
address system under the emergency plan? Or do we wanna relabel one of those?
Stuff around, but
Alright,
You put it under emergency plan, knowing that, but also it's the office is gonna do it. We talked about it earlier, it's a good point. I think each year we should probably, with your input, ladies. Develop a training program, you know, so what is it you wanna work on this year, you know, what kind of skill sets do you need to make yourself better, more efficient? In that office, right? And it doesn't have to be a lot, it can be something
We're
simple.
overwhelming for Eric.
she's been to a lot of trainings, but I think just putting it in general.
Yeah.
Ongoing training, just throw it up on there, because that's gonna be,
Well, we also need to cite the mandatory training, and it should be done by
I
4
think-
months
yeah,
ago.
I think it's amazing. All the things that I learned in these 2 weeks is amazing. And also, it opens you to see that what other towns, cities and village are going through, and you realize, oh, great. We can apply this to my village, we can do this, or you realize, oh, my village is not that bad at all.
Always said it, dog poop and dog leashes, we live in a pretty good place.
Yes.
Laser beam,
No.
That's right. so dog poop and dog leashes, that's all we gotta worry about.
I think with their input, I think that's all we have for you guys. Perfect. So we got it right at 4:30 on the dot. Thankfully.
8 seconds to go. 8 seconds.
Thank you, and then we'll get the rest of the board. Thank you.
when you guys get these,
Oh, nice
Oh.
try, Ron.
You're not done?
No,
I don't.
you get keys,
I do.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, we can always go out the back, but
Yeah,
I think you can.
I just,
Go ahead and take it, but it's make a copy of it, throw it in my mailbox. And then I'll have to go. We get hired to do it.
I know Cuba, my brother-in-law from Cuba.
The village of Cuba?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know
I'd say
that.
Bonaventure.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Cuba.
All right, so,
This should not take that very long to go.
no, it shouldn't, and I'm wondering, now that we've chatted a little, I don't know if the headings are accurate or if they need to be changed. When we originally did this, we just kind of did work on it, threw stuff up there. Stay out. Last time they broke in your window.
Yeah.
that's always the acoustic tiles if you need. Those walls don't go up past them, so.
They installed the door backwards, so I just used the credit card and I was able to get.
Policies,
We
Hey.
do have things like OSHA trainings that DPW is required to do that I don't know if they're up to
no,
date.
right, all of that needs to be checked and,
The employee sexual handbook, that should be renewed and reread,
Yeah, that
training
training.
every year.
it's mandated.
There's usually, I know as a teacher, I have to do, what is that, airborne blood,
Airborne
something,
at-home
something.
messaging.
You gotta do all that.
I always do safety, I
I don't
do.
know if that's being done.
All right, so why don't we put up a broader topic of. Get the list of mandatory trainings and the schedule
Yeah.
is his own project, and then actually doing them is a whole, because I'm sure there's a list maintained somewhere so that we can, like, NICOM or somebody updates it as needed when, because there's gonna be,
Over by later, but you-
oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
But at most of the, like, I went to the things last year and they're like, yeah, most townships or villages under about 10,000. It's just a question of which things are you missing at any given time.
Where are you?
We can do
sitting
better.
with Their break. Have you, because that's a state mandate, right? I'm just curious. You get sexual harassment training yet this
Oh,
year?
yeah, but they feed it to us, so once a month I got a new training I gotta do.
That's what I'm at. So it's
Right.
coming to you, it's coming to you, right? That's right.
I wonder, there actually might,
Beginning of every school
there
year,
might be
there's
a,
things we have to do. We have to
not a
sign
bad
off
idea
that
for a
we did it.
business.
It's-
there may be a municipal training auto schedule company that we just pay them $1,000 a
there's
year and they just send us.
There's a-
This staff needs to do these trainings on these days and fee. I bet there is somebody that does it. Yeah.
This person's out of date, they need to have this done by June 30, that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a like a software service that just, you can pay them to schedule it and send you guys the training and certify it. Cause
Just do it right from your laptop.
Yeah.
and you don't-
we feed in our personnel and then they tell us which people need to do
That's
which
right.
training on what schedule. and who's completed and who's behind.
So what's that called and where do we want it?
I would say
It's just
like, just the list of mandatory,
Okay.
you know, and
then
underneath it you
listed
could- yeah.
management Required of employees.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we could, you can put in there, you know, look, maybe there's a service that manages that,
Right.
independent, like an independent service to manage training
Like
or something.
ADP does, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
I kind of.
One quick question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
To put that, computer with. Yep.
Oh, this goes inside the,
Yes.
okay. Do you have that key? Okay.
Everybody, good night.
Yeah, we'll get her.
Thank you.
Thanks, see ya.
Did everybody look at the project view when I sent it to you guys? It's there, like, I don't get ready to freak out, but there's like 90 some projects.
A lot of those are gonna be either ongoing forever or we're not working on.
Let's look at that and be like, okay, we just identified a lot of things that need to be done. Who's doing them?
Well,
That's why we.
but that's an action item.
It is.
Year to year.
Yeah.
Okay, what's gonna be, that's the point of this, is this.
We need a plan, we have planning refinements, every year we pick out our 20 projects or where we're gonna be, right?
And what's not there, I see budget, I'm not really sure where this fits, but, you know, we ought to be constructing a capital projects budget, right? That crosses all lines, you know, it's not just DPW, not just, it's everything, but we, like, for example.
Right.
We gotta take these doors out of here, so we got work to do in this room, it costs, I'm making it up, 10 grand.
Sure.
What year? When? What are we gonna, you know, what's the next? The visitors are didn't get painted last year. It's gotta get painted. What year? Let's get it in. So every year we say, okay, we're gonna spend $50,000, whatever.
Is that part of
On a
their budget
capital-
request, though?
Yeah,
Well, we've gotta decide somewhat, give guidance to people. I mean, we're the lead, right? So we have to come up with a capital projects budget, even if it's broad and they can specify, we've got to come up with that.
That and CapEx, budget, so we can say, hey, we're supposed to be down. So, and what are we gonna spend these 50K on? Shoot. So that.
Because-
So you want that can almost be department oversight, or it's like an oversight of all of the other departments that are asking, so like a capital, what'd you call it, a capital?
Capital projects budget, I mean, seems to me that every local government entity has a capital project budget, because you can actually reserve funds. Year over year to go into those budgets, we do this.
we have it for
micro
water,
scale.
we have it for
Right.
sewer, and then we have like well, Jim didn't like to do budget transfers. So he didn't allocate them individually.
Right,
You can do it like in a general fund, but I think you mentioned we need to have a document outlining what the fund rules are. We
Right.
can't just throw it into a pot and say, this is for later. We
right,
have to say, okay, these are the type of projects that this
yeah.
is being allocated for. Here's why
That's
we
the
think the fund should have this
accountability.
balance. Because otherwise it's just a slush fund so that we can avoid
Right,
budget.
right, and that alleviates the whole. Like, you have 12 months of this, right, so. 12 months and all of a sudden somebody comes in, John comes in, Lynn comes, anybody comes in, Peg comes in, because. You know what, we forgot to tell you that we need this.
Yeah.
And I should have told you 3 months ago, well, it's the train left the station.
That's helpful too, especially when you communicate to your constituents, upgrading this room will be a capital project for 2024, and we're gonna dedicate, $15,000 to.
Yeah,
Right.
right, Right.
Park, things like that.
right, that's exactly what I'm talking about, then we know we've got the capital funds, right.
That's why that planning session, this refinement and planning session goes first in the fourth quarter. Feeds our capital list, capital
Yeah,
project,
yeah,
capital
yeah.
budget list, which feeds our overall budget for 2020.
So that means that the planning and refinement piece needs to happen right at like
Yeah,
in
so-
your review.
So actually, what I think.
Yeah, I'm still.
hearing, what you're saying now is we actually need to define. A village
Okay.
board process, a calendar, a 12-month calendar. In this, in October.
I already started one.
Guys, I'm gonna apologize on Mary Grace's behalf. She just told Jay Kramer we were here, so he went to the liquor store looking for. I don't know why he showed up there, but she just called and was like, you guys still up there? I'm like, yeah, why?
Was
So,
she back? Is she okay?
yeah, she's
Feel better?
been on the hospital for about a week.
Okay, good to hear. I was gonna
yeah,
ask.
I flew because our niece was born Tuesday. And then I didn't want her to, my brother's getting married this weekend, so I didn't want her to fly alone too early, because I'm like, if you gotta go back, you're gonna miss the wedding, but
Okay, good.
yeah, so
Good to
she's
hear.
at the shop and
Okay, straight here.
Alright,
Yeah.
so I started.
I give you a
making
2-minute
sure that
warning.
we can Literally.
Okay, we're
do
wrapping up.
any- yes, let's talk quickly before Jay gets here.
But so I think it's important to us to lay out that process, is to identify projects here, identify mid-year budget here, do the budget planning, so that
Right.
calendar is published. and
Right,
yeah.
our
So we
process.
said mid-year review
is the start of the first budget meeting.
Sorry, the first budget meeting.
Yeah.
is
It's like-
January.
And I think that like. It almost is a 2-for-1, because we'd have to do that anyway
Right, yeah.
to have a good idea of how to start, so I think it saves us. It'll be a good way to set the tone.
Get our ducks in a row, and it becomes almost mindless, okay, it's October. All right, where's our list of projects for next year,
No.
right?
Oh, exactly.
Quick thing, I took a note, but I didn't want to mention some of these things around. It may be, if we're really concerned with digitization of those records. Like, we could hire a new deputy clerk in a year, move Erica in a year and retain Peggy for the 2 years she wants as just a
Well, I was
hired
thinking as she
mercenary.
said next
Yeah,
year, another
contract.
part-time
Yeah, it's
person
contract.
answer
But
that.
I'm saying that could be her, because she doesn't want someone who doesn't know it to do the filing,
Totally.
but we can, if we could
Somebody
shift,
answer the phone stuff
Right.
while she does it.
right,
There you go. So I'm glad you said that, because that's a great idea. But number two, real quick. I almost think, how do we as a village come up with the time when we need to hire a fourth permanent DPW person, right?
I was thinking that.
We don't know, because we need to get into that mode where we go, all right.
well, I was hoping that. you'd
We're
like-
on the
crash the
overload every
ambulance.
year too
That's
much.
what I
We
thought.
can't get stuff done. It gets
Trigger
pushed down.
somewhere.
When are we gonna pull that trigger, right?
Yeah.
One could be because a reassessment, we're gonna bring in a few extra dollars in the next budget. That might be a good time, but that's the point. We have to make the case, right? So,
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about that for a while.
I mean, look, we got Madison Barracks, and what we do is we kick the hard projects down the road, but then they don't get done.
But this is
Right.
where I put this, you're absolutely right. This is where I need Ben's help. This is a simple exercise. It's really task the resources.
Right,
Be your full plate of stuff.
yeah,
And I want your resources on one side, your task on the other, and I want you to just do a spaghetti diagram for me. And point out what everyone's doing,
Yep.
right? And then we can be able to make a determination. Shit, bro.
Yeah, and this is why I was like, when we were,
I just, when I,
Yeah, we gotta see it. I just drive.
Right.
Here,
Sit
there,
down with him to
Yeah.
do the prioritize, like,
Everywhere.
yeah.
he is flat.
Well,
right.
and that's why when we were talking about like a limit, saying, okay, we want to pick the 8 projects for next year. I'm thinking like. I think that's backwards to, we don't necessarily, not all of our resources are maxed out like Lynn is. So there are things that like
Correct.
Kathy and Daryl could be tackling there. So we have to like. On like the Gantt chart of our staff, it's like. Lynn's probably booked for 2 years.
Yes.
Peggy's 3 years, like, or whatever, if we include the digitization, that can always backfill, so that's like good work, she's never gonna not have stuff to do.
Reallocate.
But we have to decide, like, is it okay if that takes 10 years? Because if so, then we don't have to allocate.
If it takes 10 years, we're just gonna keep adding to it, there's gonna be
Well,
more.
there's a 10-year limit, so if it takes 10 years, it's all
I
done.
mean, we
the
have.
things that Lynn does by and large are. You can't push.
No, he's fighting entropy
Yes,
and like
the
replace.
day-to-day stuff, like
The
the,
knife fight.
That's the
Oh,
point.
the stuff that gets broken that we don't even know about.
That's the point,
you know
right,
what I
so
mean,
you-
that are time consuming.
Yeah.
But we own this property
So,
over
hey,
there, and
you
we
did
gotta
like-
get to it. He's
Back to the-
complaining now because he's seeing,
Over here,
Yeah.
we can't go, oh, sorry, guy, we'll get to it when we get to it. That's a
Relook.
bad answer.
Relook village resource requirements, or, you know what I'm saying?
relook, review,
Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna say. We need to take a look at what we have. Assess, reassess,
say it again, review,
reassess
oh,
village resource requirements. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that should be recurring,
It should be.
that's every couple of years, you go like, are we,
say-
It's just.
village employee resources?
Yes.
I'd say like staffing numbers
Staff price
might
hike,
make it
yeah.
more clear what we meant.
Because it could be the office as well.
Right.
Just wanna make sure.
Yeah, right, the other way around, too,
Resource,
right.
yeah, we have more of somebody, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we only need 3 trustees.
Well, well, because also like with the DPW guys, when we don't have. We don't have a lot of flexibility. If one of them's off or sick,
Well, and I
Or-
was thinking, we just took on plowing, just this as an example. We just added that road in the barracks.
oh, sure,
Right?
yeah,
That's gonna add at least another hour of time
Yeah.
to their route. So their normal route takes them 3.5 hours to do one swipe. That's gonna add another hour. So now you're talking 4.5 hours. And there's only 2 of them and we get nailed day after day after day. Somebody's gonna get burnt out. We don't have a backup.
Yeah.
We said no to him when he asked for a part-time plow driver this year that we might.
well, that was odd, because
this
wasn't it,
next
it
year.
was one of the guys from the town,
It
it was,
is. Ricky Baker.
yeah,
He works part-time for the town.
Yep.
He could very easily work part-time to
Well,
help offset, say
yeah.
someone's sick, whatever.
well, save us OT.
That is.
So like it could actually be a net
They have.
reduction in price, even with that.
That's-
The other piece, right? They have to plow in twos because you need a wingman.
Well,
They
you
can't go by themselves.
think about Can-Am weekend, so Jared was on all the both days, so he was shot.
Yeah, and Lynn wasn't, but then he was running.
And somebody else the next day, yeah, there was
And
actually,
put it over there.
I was watching it, I'm like, man, that just killed your entire weekend.
We need.
We shouldn't ask.
And he was barely keeping up. I mean, those trash bins were overflowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then during bad weather,
So,
does
I
snow plow
Yeah.
of the sidewalks and, at some point. he may not
Well, and
want
the thing is too, those,
now, if we
like,
had a third person-
having a little buffer capacity on that saves us money in a bunch of other ways.
Okay, got-
OT number one, but then also, like,
Snowplow.
when they're fatigued, I'm sure they're harder on the plow, they're hitting the curb more, whatever.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
And so it gives us more ability to,
I
I would
like,
be honest. I
does he
did a
ask, does he
tour
want a
with-
person?
I did a tour with the crew on Tuesday of
Yeah.
last week. They showed, it took them 3 hours to show me everything, water treatment plant, sewer plant, all the lift station, everything.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they opened the lift station, showed me how small they are, that when one's broken and 2 guys are trying to get in there. I was like, you know what, it's very eye-opening to do that and to see what those 3 guys do on the daily that we don't really recognize.
And there are certain things like a confined space where you have to have 2 people. You
Yes,
can't send one person,
right,
so.
correct. So now you're eating up 2 manpower, and what is something else? Now we don't have a 4th person. I foresee in the future, maybe next, we'll have to see how this winter with plowing the barracks and. I don't know, we'll have to look at that, but I could foresee easily a 4th person in the maybe 1, 2, 3 years happening.
Sure.
absolutely.
Like Alex said, I think this should be a routine thing to reassess our resources to make sure we're right size.
When we start saying no or shifting a project like more than 30 days down,
Yes.
that's
that means.
a flag right there. That's too much.
Well, that's what I'm saying with the whole digitizing, if it's gonna take her 5 years to get that project done. Do we hire a part-time person to come help with that
Or contract it out.
or a contract?
Yeah, if it's important enough.
Well, it's good, yeah. People
The
do
day and age,
research
people
all the
are going
time.
digital, it saves on storage space and.
If somebody
maybe-
files a foil for old shit, we're gonna be paying, and there's a fixed amount, like we get like 25 cents a page or something. It doesn't matter if it takes us 20 hours to find the damn thing.
Yeah.
Or we say we can't find it and then we're at risk of a lawsuit so,
Okay.
Do we ask Peggy to look into?
I mean, we can, I mean, she was pretty, I
I mean,
asked
she
and she
sounded
was,
like she really wants to do it. I
Yeah.
don't know why she would want to do that.
well, I think she doesn't want to redo it after someone else does it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's more the concern.
She has a system, a filing system
Yeah.
in mind that.
So, I mean, one thing that, I mean, it may make sense to say. If she wants to stay for 3 more years as her retirement plan. Maybe we give her the last 2 years as just. She's the person we contract with. We roll Erica to clerk. We hire a new deputy clerk. That gives us the back flexibility of if the deputy clerk's learning slowly or they're very busy, we can pull Peggy off of docs for a couple days. But then she can just go hide in the corner here and just hammer that stuff out for 2 years. You know, and frankly, she may say absolutely not. After about a week, I want to pull my hair out if that's all I'm doing.
Right.
But it's worth the discussion.
Yeah.
And it's a way of, we could also see like, how was the office with a fourth person? You know, is it too much if we took away this project, or might we in the long run want a fourth? But
Right, well, it also, this stuff leads to more capital because, which is okay, because. If we see the need for, more staff. In X department and Y department, we need to accommodate for them, that office is tiny. How many offices I've been to, local government offices, whole lot bigger than that. We really do, there's no private, when someone takes a phone call and three people are talking in an office, it's crazy, it's not really conducive.
Jim works in there sometimes too, that makes me
Yeah.
want, every time I'm here, I'm like, Shannon, why aren't you in your office?
Right,
That's the
so-
whole point of why we built you that office. I
It
don't
just,
understand why.
It just makes me think about long-term planning for our, the physical plan for us, and all.
Like, get a public safety building and we move these guys,
Right.
we have a lot more space, that's a possibility.
that's a long time though.
Or we move-
I mean, even if we haul ass, that's 3-5 years
At least
before.
that, you're right.
What else projects? Where are we? Not everywhere, but that's
I
okay.
think we need to talk about roles and responsibility, even of trustees. What is our role besides going to a meeting once a month? No, that's not really identified. It's not like we have you can get a job description when you sign that oath, did you?
I mean, it's in the NICOM gets pretty explicit about what it is, and then the variability is like our assignments to committees and just like. Where we have to divide up because it doesn't make sense for all of us to go to each meeting.
So we don't need to identify. You don't think we
I
need
mean,
to do anything more?
I would, if you memorialize it here, the bad news is that you want to be able to change and adapt to the times, right? So Village B operates completely differently. Who's right? I don't know, so,
Just throwing it out there.
yeah, no, it's good to state it all. I just,
So it looks like budget's all set. I think we have a lot of policies that we're looking at and revisiting and updating. So that's already being done.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
I think.
grants and funding, I think that's a Dave. And I don't feel
Well-
comfortable making
Well,
recommendations for that.
but we do need to have, so I would suggest that there needs to be a yearly plan on that too. In other words. I just can't like exist and then shoot wherever you want to go. And we have to have a generalized.
Review with him.
Yeah,
Is there a place where they actually publish this, these are the grants available this year?
Yeah.
We can,
Sure.
we can then target that.
I know, he's saying, hey, I was thinking, oh yeah, there's a grant for that. Let me go look.
Well, I
for
just
it.
sent him one.
It's like this brain full of stuff.
Yeah, the problem is he needs a team and he needs more organized for it, because there's not any information flow. He doesn't.
Yeah.
But I just sent him something they pop up randomly. Heck, what's this one? NOAA. Yeah, there's NOAA funding. And so I
Yeah.
sent it to Corey and Dave, and I was like, it's all water resiliency stuff and we're short on our project. So I think they're gonna throw in some overage there, but most of them come up at the heck's it called, the CFA, Consolidated Fund Application. or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Well,
there's a
the
list of-
funding
which
thing
is-
makes me think of
which
the
is-
LDC plan and, we jokingly said, hey, we need to make sure we do something on this, then
I've
we
already
need to
talked to him
be
about
on
that.
his.
they're already,
Yeah,
he's rock. I said to him, every month from here on in. Needs to be thorough report.
well, the things do.
Well,
The
CFA.
the
one thing,
grant,
but
no,
ongoing.
the CFA,
Yeah,
the
ongoing, like,
big,
if we're gonna
all the grants for the state.
plan, the challenge was plan for the, for the LDC land. And I'm, Dave, you need to, if you're interested in making this work, you need to get it and seek all the grants you can and keep.
I think-
this Forward motion.
So we went up and met with Christy Dipple, Eric, and Mike and I. and talked about like their
Place,
CIA and their LDC and like how they.
Yeah.
So the main differences for them are they have a person who's employed, whose job it
Yeah,
is
I
to
was
seek
there yesterday,
funding.
as a matter of fact, yeah.
And also their LDC, and I'm meeting with Beth and Jen later this week, I forget what day. But their LDC has the town supervisors on it, their county legislator is on it. And they do a better job of having a distributed amount of stakeholders, so it's not just like, I mean, I joke ours is like half ex-mayors and Karen. Like and that's fine, there's a lot of like, it's good to have continuity, but I think.
Is the door open or did they lock it? I hope
I
they
don't think
locked
they
that
locked
public
They
meeting,
did.
because Jay was just standing there.
Oh, it's not locked.
I go see.
She asked me.
Have this done.
This door's unlocked too,
Yeah, right.
so
mean,
I feel like
just-
you would have checked.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about Clayton. The town, I know the town and village work very well.
Yeah, and I think the LDC getting out of this land ownership over time, it's a good opportunity. They're all
Yeah.
interested in kind of transitioning what they are.
Yeah,
And particularly, so the meeting there. Good.
oh, good then. Jay didn't feel like coming in. So don't bother.
He might have just wanted to catch me.
Yeah,
but-
he was probably,
That makes sense that he went to the shop and not to. But
He must not want to talk to all of us, just Alex.
also Mary Grace, he came to the cottage once and Mary Grace made him snacks, and so now he's like always drops by. Yeah, and I think there is an opportunity there, like the way Clayton does it is I think the town gives 15K, the village gives 20K in funding to hire a grant writer. And then they have like a certain amount of work they do. And then if the village or town wants to hire them or wants to do like more than the baseline, they'll contribute, okay, here's another 5 to do this specific grant application.
yeah.
And then that started off part-time, but now she's full-time. And I think it's worth bringing somebody in. I think, Dave is very focused on like the stuff that he wants to do. And I think we could use more like business focused grants and just more people, right? To have another, so I think that the LDC moving in that direction could be great for grant funding
Well,
generally.
I couldn't agree more because the town of Hounsfield, I mean, has part of the airport park, for example, part of the TI event center. I keep saying to people, not necessarily here, I mentioned it once, we need to keep our eyes on that thing. That thing's gonna bring a lot of potential business. Somebody, who was it? Rich downtown. Rich keeps asking me, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? I'm preparing for this. I want this. That TI event center, bringing in events 5-6 miles away, I mean, that's big, but I think you're right. An LDC that were town-wide makes a lot more sense.
Well, maybe is
Kind of what you were thinking, Alex.
Yeah, so I mean, I talked to Beth about it already. I'm gonna bring it up with Beth and Jen that I think with the school in particular, right? The LDC is gonna be doing solicitation for
Yeah.
housing developments. The school is like the #1 benefactor of that for enrollment and for taxes.
I don't know if they have, or if they have the ability to have a grant writer. Is that?
No, but they could put a
No,
person on the board. So that,
LDC
so you're like, whether or not it's Jen Kathy herself or a rep that maybe has a little more time than her, same thing with Beth. She may decide there's a rep from the town, but it may not be the supervisor that kind of even if we don't change the way the LDC board is, they can be advisors to the board, still come to meetings.
That's what we're gonna talk about.
So the establishment, so that shared, are you trying to establish or change the makeup of the LDC?
A little, because they think the mission has kind of changed over time.
Yeah.
And we're the closest thing that the mission.
Yeah, they got-
But then like subsequently,
So once they essentially get out of the land development LLC. They don't have money, they don't have a way to make any more money because they were given small grants, the small businesses. What do? They're already asking themselves, what's our purpose?
yeah.
They don't have one anymore, they don't have a way to make revenue or money or any of that stuff. So what I was talking about
Yeah.
is maybe,
And they were like, oh, Mark had brought up before too, just dissolve as an option.
right,
But there is that leaves a gap that. people go like, oh, we're not Clayton, it's different. And I don't advocate for copying Clayton's results, but their method has been great. And the method is get all the stakeholders involved and cooperate and get funding. And then what we do with that funding will be different than what they did. But it's like that model has gotten them $30 million in investment, which is something that,
I agree.
Yeah, and he has so many irons in the fire. You know, grant writing is a
Right.
small piece of everything on his plate.
It defaulted today because the village really hasn't had
Right.
an error, so the heritage area director got the job.
Right.
They happen to have experience.
Right.
Because the heritage area happens to do a lot, but now he's like into everything.
yeah.
Has to be, right? So
Yeah.
we lack that. That would be a
Yeah.
great role for a
So
town
would
wide
he be
outreach.
like the overseer of the grant writer to direct, or would that?
I think
Yeah.
that's,
Premature. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. He needs to continue
Right.
what's going on.
He's got
right now,
enough.
right? No
You guys
question.
work with these, we'll work with.
But I think, I mean, it'll be interesting. And like Christy agreed that she'd be happy to like help look over resumes because, you know, she has been doing this for what, 10 plus years now.
Aren't there, what do they call them? Not circuit rider, is that the term?
Yeah.
The problem with them is they're one-off and they're expensive. And if you don't get it, you still pay. And so I think, they're mercenary, you know,
Like a
grant
roving.
writer for hire.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah. And we've done that before, right? I think, or not we, I guess, I think the church did for the clock tower. They hired a firm out of Syracuse that does grant writing.
It just seems like there's so many grants that we aren't aware of that are. Somebody should be tracking.
Well,
and say,
yeah.
hey,
I actually do have
we
so
go after them, right? Yeah.
Matt Johnson at a Tug Hill Commission, right? So Tug Hill, we're not in Tug Hill, right? But Matt Johnson said to me, the Tug Hill Commission, of course, Katie doesn't mind working with towns on the sort of next ring out. And Matt said, I'd be happy to review and be the ear for you guys, whether it's grants, ideas, whatever. Now, the Tug Hill Commission has done wonders for the North Country over time. And if we've got an offer for a staff person to do free reviews, and they're a bank of grant information, right? So he could be, if we engage with him more
Yeah.
regularly, he's also a quick, he's got the quick information to get us on the right
We
track.
need somebody that seeks out grant opportunities.
Right.
They grant, present themselves throughout the year. Is that kind of how this thing works?
Do they what?
Present themselves throughout.
There is
Yeah,
a big concentrated chunk, but there are like so for this, the consolidated funding applications due the end of this week. And that is for all sorts of the Empire State Development Grant. There's I think the DRIs do the same, right? Is it-
Yeah,
It's all, but they're-
the same.
then like other ones will come up from the organization. So the NOAA one that I just sent Dave, that popped up 3 days ago. But the big lion's share of the most money, which is like, it's state funded and it's all the grants, it's always due at the end of June or July.
I asked the question, and I thought so, is that can we, once that's published. Dave, we want you to focus on these grants.
That's what he does. But
Yeah, but we're not really, he focuses on the ones that he thinks he can get and I would say he's biased towards the historical preservation stuff because that's what he does the most of.
But he also works in tandem with Corey and
Yep.
BCA, so they,
Yeah.
our
they know
CFA
too.
is huge.
Yeah,
And it's coordinated with BCA and with
I
Harris.
just wanted to, which works out, we have on the focus of what grants we're going after, or we're just leaving it up to those
I
guys.
think Alex is right, and that Dave does primarily focus his on historical preservation and.
Because he's Harris.
yeah,
Correct.
no, I mean, it's expected.
It makes sense, but we have other needs besides that
Yeah.
as well, so.
Right.
So-
I don't think.
Like,
he's
like
wrong.
this Noah, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't look at it, because.
Oh, it popped up 3 days ago. I sent it to him and BCA as a way to get overage for our Market Square Park and they had a call this morning.
Okay.
I was gonna be on it, but I got home at 4 AM, so I did not.
So and I don't,
But-
I don't even think that. That's in the heritage area director's job description. I think.
This is just on Market Square Park. So I was like, hey, guys.
This is all gratis. right?
Yeah.
This is all gratis.
Which
Gotta-
Yeah, I mean, look, he puts
which
up,
is more evidence to say we probably do need a grant writer so that we can.
Yeah,
step
I mean,
back
that's part of the
and
problem
force
is,
us
like,
to do things
I would
and be able to
love-
look, this to do then.
He's not.
Yeah.
like, in
opposed
this,
to it
it's
at
hard,
all.
it's
He's
hard to
like,
force him to be more compliant with oversight, because it's like, well,
No,
he's
he-
putting up
he-
numbers, he's kind of giving us more than we're paying him for. But I think we're at, like, I think we could carve out what he's doing and let him focus on it and have a whole nother person.
I agree.
And what Chrissy had said was the grants used to have admin percentages. So if you did a $200,000 arborist grant, they would include like 20K for reimbursing the person who wrote the grant and the administrator. They don't do that anymore.
Private foundation.
So we have to basically fund,
So they
So
have
we-
a full-time grant writer?
they do.
Full-time?
Well, it's so
Or-
the CIA, which is the Clayton Improvement Association, and their Clayton LDC, which is both the town and village of Clayton, split her 50-50.
Yeah.
And the town and the village both fund directly part of her payroll, and then like other groups will hire them to write a grant and pay the admin fee.
What, do you know what? she paid?
I don't know what she's paid. I didn't.
So
I didn't
that
ask
just made
her.
me Think of like fire department, you know, when they have grants that come up with FEMA.
Yeah.
Well,
That person, they would have the ability to then
You're saying
say,
they- Right.
because you're the village grant. writer,
100%.
you know,
And even the school, like, I think we can get,
that they
if
do
we
now.
can have the LDC become a mechanism for
That's their area
cooperation,
of
and they can be the
expertise.
person that hires someone, and we can say, okay, the village is gonna kick in 20 grand a year, the town's gonna kick in 20 grand a year. This grant writer, a third of her time is directed by the village on grants that we want, a third of her time is for the town, and the other third is at her discretion through the LDC for bigger, wider projects. I think that'd be a great model. And we don't have to start with someone full-time. The trick is finding somebody. I've been nagging
I like that.
Paul Boucher.
Service.
because he does this for the Colorado watershed, but I think he's not ready. Like, he's still full-time. He travels out there a lot, but
Like Reinhardt write grants.
she does, and she's doing one right now for the trees.
Yeah.
I know she works-
Yeah, I got it.
Lots of the grants, we may be able to copy and
You
paste.
gotta
change
sign
the
them
name,
by
go to second
August,
round,
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Got
Yeah, I
that?
talked to her today because I didn't, she said that she didn't know if we needed a resolution.
doesn't
She
know
said that
yet.
you were bringing it to our meeting tomorrow, which I think,
She met, I just said, I'm gonna see the trustees,
okay,
I'm gonna mention.
if we need to vote on it, our meeting's
No, she
early
said
and it's on
no,
time.
She said, you just have to sign,
Okay.
it's with the mayor. And, but it's
So
uh,
she was telling me the numbers though, because it's,
so the
if we
numbers
get it,
are
we're committed to a pretty high.
$40,000. It gonna cost us 40 grand, but there is a 55, or it's gonna cost 40 grand.
I think that alone.
No, 55.
She said 25%.
So
Is that us?
55,000,
Or
the
we're
match is
75?
what we gotta do.
Okay, so
right?
we're only in for a
Yeah.
quarter.
So we're in for 13.76, so we just, it's not a big deal,
And that's-
since we get what we give her 20, right? She's good, but she
Yeah.
just wants us to be aware.
Okay, I misunderstood when she said the match was 25. I was like, well,
Yeah,
shit, that's
no,
a big,
no, She didn't
I
wanna
think I
age
heard
it.
about resolution.
I got you.
So-
Yes.
There's
Um,
a storm coming, in case y'all noticed it.
Yeah, it's just what's gonna be bad, right?
fine.
So grant writer, I think we're all.
Oh,
I
we
added
wanted
that.
it for years, but we could never, that, another problem, and the reason, I'll be honest with you, 2 years ago. Why we went through that painful budget process was to really get a better understanding of where we are, so we could go, you know what? We are ready for full-time this or full-time that, or a new part-time Y. But without really understanding it, we just can't look at numbers and go, yeah, last year +5. And
Yeah.
that does not, it's never gonna get us anywhere.
Right.
So now we know, right? We've got a little more information. But that would be great. And I think Heritage Area, by the way, we're mandated to keep that position because we're one of the only heritage areas. And that's probably.
Well, that's fine, but I think honestly, like, those are two different types of grants.
Exactly.
And I think honestly,
All
I don't
he's
think
doing is
Dave's gonna be
managing-
super annoyed if we're like, don't worry about dock construction anymore, focus on
Totally.
historical stuff.
He's totally.
You know, so I think that
He's between having a 1 foot sort of in the retirement corridor, and he doesn't wanna do all that for
Right.
$13,000, you
Right.
know?
I would love it to just share it with the town, because again, I was saying before, I bet we go after a lot of same.
Yeah, yeah.
We can benefit. from going
Again,
after-
that shared services, which I don't know, I mean, I don't know how, if we use that to its fullest potential
Well,
to be,
We should.
you know, we-
Too.
I know the DPW,
$50,000.
Crews too,
25.
But we gotta get them formalized, though. If we do more, if the more deeper we're into shared services, the more we got to codify it, because you can get into liability issues without it. I mean,
Right now, it's pretty vague, right? It's just for like construction and plowing and maintenance.
yeah,
I
we
know when
had
there's
one.
water main breaks, it's always a shared service.
Sure.
They always have
Yeah.
them.
So we had
They
we
need the
had,
manpower,
Yeah.
or they have the manpower
MOUs.
that we don't have.
when you said MOUs,
Yeah.
that's minor. Yeah,
We have a few, but I
We
don't,
want that on here, MOU,
we should. Should have them.
This review or.
They're just-
have one?
don't have
We
one.
don't, we should.
Um,
It's just like.
Yeah. Was it
I mean,
only the fire that we had that formal one for?
Well,
Yes,
so.
Okay.
this is just an example.
Oh, we have one with the school, but you're right. I don't know that we have one
Right,
for
and they're-
water.
and They're developing
Okay.
another one right
Right.
now.
I know every time there's a water main break, they always call the town because they
Yeah.
have.
Well,
They
they need
have-
like, they need a bunch of guys too.
They need a lot of people on that's what they
So
get.
we just need to have that in writing,
Yep.
right?
You're right. What if it was an injury or a accident?
No question.
Who would cover
This
it?
was big 15
Yeah.
years ago. The governor really pushed the heck out of it, and only his towns and villages are so small, no one really got into it. So everybody does it like this. Everybody does it like, hey, you just come. You just
Yeah, they get along, so.
But then all of a sudden something happens and you got lawsuits, so just memorialize it a little bit.
I would like to see, again, I'm an old secretary at heart, so like all these policies that we keep talking about, all these MOUs or shared agreements. We should have a physical place where if you were like, hey, I want to see all the employee policies, there's a binder
Right
somewhere where
there,
they go in and
binder.
grab it. There they all are.
Yeah.
It's
I
also-
know she's-
it's also called the internet.
Or you could,
The
or
web-
Dropbox
website.
box where they're all
Well,
dumped
oh,
into, and
there's,
that's
we have
fine.
the internet, we have
Yeah,
Google
Dropbox.
Workspace.
Yeah,
Right, and once this gets situated, whether it's a Google Dropbox or if it's a workspace.
You have a Dropbox?
The locked box, yes, they have a locked box.
You know, it's funny in the workspace, google.com/workspace, I can see the last login for everybody, Ron.
I know.
Yes, exactly. Ron can
There's
stand
like
up
a-
there
It has been X days since the last, you know.
I think I was in there in June.
What do you
By
say?
accident, by accident.
By accident?
What the hell is this like?
What's so bad?
Spam.
So, pending your finance plan, maybe this year, maybe next year, but once we do it, we've already talked about it, you've got a great format already. But then we gotta publish that, right? We gotta communicate that, so we're strategic plan development and then publication of that plan.
Right, these are
So-
internal docs, just like this project view is an internal doc.
Yeah,
We talked about, that's a lot of work for. Again, if we want it published, are we adding that to the secretary already overly busy, like who's publishing it? Is it?
I mean, honestly, I think if you go to the project view and we just said, add a tab for show public, like publish to public or not. And we just walk down and tick the ones that we are currently working on, and then we just take a screenshot, PDF print, here it is. It doesn't need to be like every edit, it's like once a year. You know, we don't necessarily need every time we change
No, I
the,
would want to, less out the better. I mean, because what if you never get to a project? And Mr. Jones is like, what the hell, 10 years later? I'm
What's
still not-
key from this document, is we can show it, because this is the way it is.
Yeah,
What we're working on, what we completed, what's in progress.
yeah, you can do the,
So that's
you've already
fine.
got it, the status by on progress and just do a,
Sort these as something.
yeah, the filter's too high, so,
So at another time, I'll have you.
yeah. We can do it real quick if you want, just click above the one and the left of the A,
This is what we're
so
working
all the way over,
Over here.
the upper corner,
And this is what we've done.
Right here.
uh,
This is what we've
down
done
one,
this year, right?
left one.
They don't need to know.
Yep, that box.
200
Yeah.
more things.
All right, then go data
No,
up top.
Yeah.
our goal this year, guys, these are the.
Remove
projects we're
filter.
Focusing on.
Okay, now
we'll
click on
dive into it,
row
you know.
2, the number. And then hit shift Apple down or shift command down. Hit down, shift command and hit down a couple more times, make sure you got everything. Yeah, and now go data filter. Basically, you have the filter on the header.
And then do.
Yep, data
Data.
and then create filter.
Ah,
And so now it's on the second row, because before it was on the top one, so it didn't,
That's why I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Thank you.
yeah.
All right,
So now, yeah, if you wanted the public view, you could just go over to status, click the drop down and only show stuff that's in progress.
okay. Yeah, so is there anything else that we've done a lot of talking about shared services, grant writing, making sure we have a plan. Refining the plan, looking at it annually.
I think,
Obviously, I think the big thing is the emergency plan, which we need to get our hands on and have
Yeah.
access to. That seems like that much, so unless there's anything else for this page, the next step,
1 hour meetings.
when that came on, like, the next step after this, because now.
Get everyone
we've
a
got
nicotine
all the
patch and
silver
burn through it.
players, right? The next step is looking at this project view and prioritizing.
Yep.
Is it a 23-24 project or is it a 24-25 project? I am going to be meeting with Lynn to discuss all DPW stuff, and with him and we're gonna sit down and he's gonna help me prioritize what's in process. I did add Mill Creek Lane pedestrian trail as an item there,
Oh,
just as a side note. there's
that was
only
filed?
Well, yeah.
Was it that's the
the
conveyance?
extension.
Like
Oh,
that,
the
that
extension.
road is the public's now?
Oh, no, I don't know if it was filed. I
Okay.
haven't signed out, so.
They
It's
did
good.
pave it.
Yeah, it's paid, but we gotta make sure that the easement was conveyed. or-
Cause no,
or
but the
easements-
road, you know, I'm talking about Mill Creek Lane, the cul-de-sac,
Oh,
and we found that it was conveyed, but we never filed it
Oh,
with the county.
yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it was conveyed, yeah.
No, but we never filed it. And we
It's
should-
already- It's already, it didn't have
Okay.
to be.
Okay, because it still shows on the county as Lawler's property.
It's weird.
We just.
But I mean, it takes time
We
to
had it in our
update. it.
packet Last
We did
month.
it.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that I think we're all on the same page. I think we did approve it, but it's just waiting for the county to do it. But I wanted to make sure because I got a couple people asking me and I
All right. Sorry, real quick, I don't even know if we're supposed to talk about this. The Mill Creek Lane pedestrian trail and fence,
Mill Creek Apartments.
Thank you.
Mill Creek
not
Apartments,
lane, that's
yeah.
the problem.
Is it Creekside or Mill Creek? I think
Creekside.
It might be Creekside.
Creekside.
Creekside Apartments, right. I just talked to Mr. Sharkey yesterday.
There's only
He's being very
$5,000
nice,
in the budget line to pay for the fence.
How much?
There's only $5,000 in the line. It's 100 feet, 5,000 is severely under.
There was, but I know that years ago, I'll have to look, let me try to look.
I
back
asked
at it.
Shannon how much was in the line.
I know,
I have to
that's in the current budget, but there.
We had it spread out though. There's trails money in the heritage area, there's trails money in the DPW, and then we had some money for the fence
That's right.
itself. So we can probably,
There was
Okay.
actually a separate, you know how on our reports we had like somewhere there's like the Pickering Beach Fund and all that,
Mhm.
separate from the budget. Well, there was another separate from the budget line, you know, like not budget line, but account is what I'm looking for. And there was a Madison Bear or whatever fence account
They-
for 25,000 in there or something like that. Cause that's what Lynn and I were talking about 2 years ago, trying to get this thing going.
Where's the fence going right along the wall? right along the line?
Part of my tour is they took me out there. It is in horrible shape.
Yeah,
Let me
because-
Oh, it
just
got
tell
totally
you.
washed out.
Severe Disrepair,
Where is it?
right where the Mill Creek bridge is.
Part of the
it's
trail.
behind the
It's
apartments.
behind
along the creek.
apartments, that
I used to
cement
walk it
wall
all the
needs a
time up
fence
there.
on it.
That's okay.
And
Yeah.
there's a trail, pedestrian trail that follows that cement.
Yeah,
whatever you
I
call
got
it.
you now. I follow.
Okay.
Okay.
So the trail, Lynn took pictures of it to show the board how, like,
Oh, I
there
know.
is no trail there. So it's gonna take a lot of
Got
work.
overgrown.
It
So,
did.
so it was our responsibility since January and we didn't do anything. So, but we can't shirk it right now. Mr. Sharkey said, I can contract. Give you guys the bill for like a couple $100. I need somebody, he goes, I got a guy that can just get in there with the shrub stuff and grind that out. So then you can do the the trail part. I'm like. Okay, I said nothing to him other than, okay, I hear you, thank you.
I know he's
Goodbye.
called Lynn and they've
So
talked
I'm
a
like-
couple of times. He wants the fence, he wants the overgrowth to be, it's an eyesore. and
Oh, it's terrible,
You know, it looks
yeah.
horrible right now. And that's what his residents are seeing. when they
Right,
look out
so
The window.
I'm thinking if this guy You know, I can
Or just handle
confirm,
it,
I
yeah.
can confirm with him, if it's a low number like that.
You just run the number by Lynn, and if
Holy
it makes
crap.
sense, then do it.
Cause,
Is he just gonna, he's not putting the fence up?
no, he's
cleaning it
gonna
up.
clear, and then we gotta do the trail, we gotta do the fence, but he can clear it.
Okay, our responsibility is a fence for safety. reasons.
Our
And trail
responsibility
maintenance.
is the
And trail.
construction and maintenance of the trail, which was there, we just let.
It got washed out.
Okay.
When
That's
the-
not
the
part
high
of
water
our
year, it got
trail
totally
system,
wrecked.
that's-
Yeah, it is part of the
is.
trail
It
system.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I used to walk it all the time,
yeah.
it was, it's beautiful,
Okay,
it's part of the actual
the
loop.
one that goes across the battlefield and that's. all part of it.
Yep, all
Okay.
I
part
didn't
of it.
realize it was all connected.
I thought it was separate.
Something got lost in the shuffle, that's all I'm gonna say, and so. A lot of work needs to happen. to
Yeah.
get that. But Lynn was thinking the priority is getting the fence up because of the safety piece of it.
Well, yeah.
So
Except you
he's
gotta
working
do
on
the-
some prices.
Yeah,
to-
Maintenance up on the battlefield,
And
Or
he
should
takes
every
some
year.
pictures.
but isn't that Parks that's doing that maintenance? On the trail?
no,
No.
it's always
That's
always
DPW,
us.
yeah, DPW, absolutely.
Well, no, the part of it that's in the state park, they do.
Oh,
Right,
yeah, it's in
we,
the state
like
park,
the
but we do
LDC
it.
lot and then everything behind the school
Yeah.
and around, and then.
See, that's what I'm saying, he doesn't have enough people
I mean, we
to
got
get to
a
that, so
group-
I really do think we need.
that was a huge great, I mean,
A third,
imagine it, that was a
whatever
huge
you call it,
grant that
Lynn,
we got to
and then
do
the
that
guys.
trail.
Yeah,
6
I had no idea that was part of the same. system.
Yeah,
No, it is very distorted.
There's a few, well, it's connected by sidewalk.
now there, that pavement back there actually almost brings you to that access that goes behind.
Yeah.
So before it was kind of murky, now it's like you can
So when
see.
you come out, from the military cemetery.
Yep,
How do you
Hounsfield.
did you go up Dodge Avenue down Hounsfield Street? And that's the.
You can get to it. from there.
a lot of different ways.
I don't
We
think
cut
there's an
through-
official route, but that's,
No.
I mean, you can go through the cemetery.
We
you-
cut through Lakeside, there's Lakeside, because Lakeside took their fence down, right?
Right.
So there's,
Right.
so you come
Okay.
out there, you go up about, what, 300 feet, you catch Lakeside to go across, then the military.
I
around.
would highly I know, I would recommend getting with the DPW and having them take your, it was very eye-opening to be like, holy shit. I didn't realize how many acres and acres and acres of land they mow. Like, to look
Oh,
at,
yeah.
like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It was very eye-opening to see. I would recommend it. And then to think back and, we really underestimate all the work that they do. I
Oh,
feel
and
like.
that's what was getting me to the point.
Well, their
of-
job is to make sure things don't break. It's not obvious until.
And a lot of this stuff they do without us even knowing, it
You
just
don't hear
happens.
about it. You never
We
hear
don't hear about all the little things that are happening, so,
Yeah.
just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
no, I know.
Let's make that-
Look what they couldn't get through last year, the
Might need to be-
visitor center, it looks terrible this year. It needs paint job, like nobody.
I mean, this time of year, there's 6-person.
They have a
Really?
mowing crew in there flat out. They've done a lot of paving this year because of Market Square, so this year's, I think, a little bit different because they're trying to offset some of our
Yep.
commitments over there.
But really, a 3-person, I mean, that's that's pretty scary.
Because there's some where people aren't, they're just running mowers, right? They're
And
not
they're
doing it.
part-time.
Yeah,
And
Watering
they're
watering the flowers.
yeah. So they're taking the grunt work off, but they're not getting into the pump station
No.
fishing a shoe.
No,
I think it's just superficial stuff that.
Yeah.
they're doing.
If I could if we just had some, really, it's nice, it'd be nice to have some evidence, some time management or whatever you call it. Project management evidence, because you really need that, just make it in a call, because.
Is that water or
You
electric?
intrinsically know is, I'm sure we'd be right, but you always want to
You
justify
gotta
it,
justify.
gotta
it.
justify it, right,
I think that's a great idea. I'm just gonna throw, Lynn is not computer savvy,
I know.
so if we ask him to track jobs and their construction workers ride around in their, how would we ask them to
If you-
manage?
If you said to Lynn. Can you justify?
A
A
fourth
fourth person,
person, I'm
and
sure
then,
he
and
can.
however. Lynn speak, however he
Right,
does that,
right.
and then we can translate that,
Right,
but. Yeah, to ask him to sit down and do a spreadsheet.
I,
No,
he
no.
would never, he
No.
wouldn't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. I think he could sit there and talk to you and say this, you know,
And that's
because.
fine.
Yeah,
If he spent 2 hours of his time just completely emptying his head. That's what we didn't do with Lonnie, by the way, and half the,
But-
as you know, the
but we
infrastructure in the village is in his
I
head.
just don't want.
Oh,
him to
yeah,
feel like
that's
we're
the-
questioning.
That's
him.
the tracking
We
system.
do
Right,
what he's
right.
doing. And I don't want him to feel like we're trying to
No, but-
oversee.
The message to him is, you know, we sense a need for a fourth full-time person, but we can't. Like Mark said, you gotta be able to
Yeah.
justify that.
Got it.
So, all right, because I was already hearing the Lonnies and the JPs and the Erics of the world saying, you did what?
Oh,
Yes.
You hired a new full-time
question.
DPW? You don't need another full-time.
Because they were cheap as hell.
They were
and our guys-
100%. I tell them it all the
Yes,
time.
they were
But,
cheap.
so we need to work with Lynn and pull it out of his head.
Yeah.
And then John.
exactly.
Well, and he know, I mean, like, we've talked about it a few
Exactly.
times where,
Exactly.
like, with this wastewater asset plan. It's not an insult to tell him. And I talked to him about this, I didn't feel like he thought it was, to say like, it's probably not the best idea that. Half of the shit in the village is only in your brain. Like, if you,
It's terrible.
like, you know, and it's like, and like, you're just, you're adding stuff in there and like, you're
Very
gonna
bad.
miss, and like, he's very good at like the things that he catches are the big, you know, he prioritizes, but like, no one else has oversight. Or like, if he's ever like injured or hurt, No, I mean, like, I mean, like, not oversight, like visibility on the project so that.
Traceability, right?
And just saying like, yeah, if it very well may be, if we get all of it documented, we're like, we could justify 2 more people, we're only gonna do 1, but.
Look at the 2 electrical stations on Market Square Park, right? When you ask about that, everybody's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3-phase or whatever. I'm like, pretty sure isn't close enough for me. Where's the documentation that says what we did there? We never do that.
That's the exercise I think maybe, Kelly, I'll work with you, with Lynn on this. I don't want him to feel like we're not questioning. What I want to do.
I wanna
Well,
help
I
support
want you
the
to tell me
departments.
what you do. We said before, tell me.
Right,
what you do
exactly.
day-to-day, Special projects and all the other shit you respond to in case of extreme, you know.
Right.
Start a list based on that tour.
Yeah, and I think if you preface it being like, the purpose of this is to get you more resources, not to
Right,
question your, you know.
And then tell me, okay, who's doing these tasks? I'm saying again, that's what I want to see. And then we can justify.
you know.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and you know, this is not a bad thing. A lot of times Lynn is a working
Yes,
supervisor. You know,
Yeah.
he is putting out fires and going to meetings, but he's also the guy in the trench with Mikey and Jared. He would never, you know what I mean? Where if we had a third person,
Could
he's
do a little bit less. of
he
that.
could do a little bit less of that because he is doing Market Square Park. He is doing.
Guess what we can do? He has time now to train on Microsoft.
There
Office.
we
can start doing stuff,
Just
right?
let Mikey do that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if you tell them that, you're not gonna get any.
Yeah, he's-
We're not gonna do that.
Oh, that'll free up Mike's time to do that.
Right, if we're gonna train anybody, Mikey would be the person to do that.
Or the new person that could be a prerequisite of like, you're gonna learn from these guys and document everything, and you have to have good
Sure.
computer skills and.
Way,
Yeah.
I know that they have a
Oh, the
Login or
unions. Yeah,
Is there a way, I know that there's gotta be, assuming in like the construction world, a way to clock into certain projects or jobs?
There's like-
Is there like a software?
there's a
thing that would
1,000
do it?
of them, and everyone hates them all.
Okay.
Like, if you ever talk to like consultants or lawyers that have to bill by 15-minute increments, and they're like, oh yeah, 5 hours a week of my time is trying to remember like. This phone call was with this client,
Yeah.
and this, they make like,
Basically, what we would need from him is like, okay, for a week.
he can just
I need you
ballpark
to
it.
Suck it up for 5 days and tell me
Right,
how much,
no, seriously.
you know, we're
But the
designated
rewards
to
could be
training
another
and-
person.
Yeah.
It's- The
Right.
thing is, like, it doesn't need to be, I don't think it needs to be that high fidelity.
I
I don't
don't
think,
think
we just be
either.
like, look, let's talk about the last 2 weeks. We'll go day by day, what went down, what was ballpark these numbers, we don't need them to like. Take it in real time, I don't think.
Right.
Cause,
I think winter throws a separate wrench into it too. I'm just thinking there's 2 guys that plow and they're plowing.
Yeah.
12, 14-hour days. They don't have a backup person.
So,
Now, that's a safety concern as well, when they're plowing on lack of sleep.
But you talk, this is interesting. So you mentioned that he's a working supervisor, which is great, but if we could disproportionately get him to be
More of a supervisor.
more of a supervisor, that's a benefit for him, a benefit for his staff. When you go to different, I've gone to villages here and there for a long, and I always see the supervisors, the guys are in the office half the time. Because
Yeah,
that's what they
never
do,
in the
and they're
office.
like,
He's always on
you
the road
know,
with the group.
I'm
He's
like,
always with
and
them.
Yeah.
I think for small villages with not a lot of stuff and not a lot of irons in the fire. It's one thing, but I think when you're kind of rocking and rolling like here, you gotta keep an eye on the whole place, because.
It might be better to hire an admin for him. Rather than, or somebody whose job is to do both, because I don't know that he wants to be as hands-on.
He does, that is the kind of supervisor he prefers to be. So he
Right.
doesn't want to just be the guy sitting at a desk.
I don't know what the rules are with the union, if they're gonna let us say, okay, we want a what is it? It's not MOU, MEI,
MEO.
MEO. That also is gonna do clerical work, but. Having somebody be the documentarian or the process person, if we're gonna hire somebody new, it's easier, I think, to have. Your hiring requirements, find the right person, than to take someone who's happy with their job and be like, guess what, you're gonna learn a whole new thing.
Well, you could ask.
Yeah,
Say, would you
well,
prefer,
what's the, right,
a third worker bee or an admin?
well, what's his job description, does he,
I think it falls under his job description to do a lot of that paperwork trail, and I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
what I
what we
thought.
pay him.
That's
to
what
do.
I
We give him a
thought.
good wage. And
Right.
again, I don't want to take away from all the good things that the crew is
Well,
very good.
of course.
But I just feel like they're nonstop, on the go.
Yeah,
All the time, like there's never a down moment, I feel like. And we do have aging sewer system, aging, those lift stations.
Yeah.
Things are happening.
At some point in the future, when we get, I think, really settled, it would be nice to have a DPW supervisor who actually has the ability to plan. So like this winter, these are the sidewalks, or this summer, these are the sidewalks, that
Right.
type
Gotta
of stuff.
plan.
Right, and I feel like right now, because there is only two of them, that's why we're not getting that kind of planning, because he
Right.
doesn't have the time to do it.
Right, that's something I think we should
That's the
strive for.
missing link,
Yeah.
you're right.
future.
I mean, Lynn's been at that job 5 years now, 6 years, right? So that's kind of, in the scheme of things, it's still sort of new, Well, Lonnie was in there 20 years, right?
Right.
So Lonnie had that going on, he did his
could do that,
planning,
yeah.
because that's what he liked to do. Yeah, he was on the job, but he did a lot of the
Planning.
planning,
Well,
And
I
I
mean-
think Lynn just needs a little bit more of that, just a little bit more. I think if he does it a little bit, he might go, hey, you know what? I'm in control here and I can
We got a little space
actually
to do that.
yes, sir.
dictate this.
Yeah, and well, frankly, like. Eventually, it gets harder and harder to do that much. The work they do is physical as hell. And so it's like at National Grid, it was like the natural transition. It was like when your shoulders don't let you hold the line above your head, you
Yeah.
become a line supervisor.
That's right.
Because like your arms are done now.
God bless him. But he complains a little bit about that stuff, He's not 20, but.
Nope, definitely not.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so that's just on everybody's radar.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's
Do
good.
you
I
want
wanna
to do the tree thing real quick?
Yeah, 3 things. So,
Approve,
we
make a
got-
motion. Oh, sorry.
Can't do that.
No, it's just an FYI, that. We have to remove 20
Yep.
trees
Talk about it.
and 10 neat trees need to be pruned pretty good. That's a $55,000 job by the arborist, and there's a grant out there Kelly's going for, requires a 25% match. 25% of that is $13,750. We already put 20 in our budget for trees, so this year will be just more dedicated to that. And she just didn't want to, since the grant is due in early or mid-August, and we have to sign for that. She just wanted to FYI us so that, there was no surprise after, which is good.
And that's a single quote, so it could be, that's the high number.
Any of the trees in the
In the right away.
the cemetery.
Yeah.
Lakeview?
Lakeview?
No,
That's
no,
the-
no.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Why does the town do that when it's in the?
I don't know.
I've never
The
understood.
They took it over a
Yeah.
while ago. Why?
There's some issues.
contracted the mowing and the mowing has been
Right.
horrible.
The guy had like a seizure.
We're gonna try to, we are.
Like,
going
he
to
was in
try
the
to
hospital.
Put the Lakeview Cemetery, Lakeside Cemetery in the heritage area, which won't alleviate the town issue, but putting it in the heritage area will give it more focus. And they won't be able to remove trees like they did. They clear cutted a bunch of
They
trees.
did and it looked horrible.
I know.
When we allocated $20,000 to the tree fund.
Yeah.
Did we say it was for new trees, or did we say it's just generally for like, tree maintenance?
It's been at Kelly's discretion, really.
Partly, yeah, partly tree maintenance, and they use some of that. To pay DPW, and we do transfer later to do the, general,
Okay.
what they can do physically. We're not trained, they're not trained to take, we don't have the equipment either, have to sub out to Davy or whatever. So now we're down to these 20 dead trees. They have to be cleared. Actually, we have a really good canopy
Was
here.
just telling me about some trees that he already has.
He took a bunch of small,
Okay.
yeah, Kelly said he took all the
He's
ones
got
they
some
could do.
earmarks that are coming, like there's one out on,
Yep.
East Main further out that I know is gonna come down.
Yeah, they're getting marked now.
Yeah, the big ones they can't do.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Kelly said he did a bunch that they, like, it's another thing. Kelly called him, said there's some dead trees.
Yep.
He drove around, looked at everyone's small enough, he took them down. But we are, like, we'll have to pay someone to remove them probably during a winter storm if we don't do it through
Yeah,
this grant,
yeah.
so.
And there's, trees, these are in right of way, so they're over sidewalks. I mean, the branches on the tree in front of my house fall all the time. This big onto a side, I mean, could be anybody, so
Yeah.
they're hazards.
Be careful.
And this is, yeah, I know.
So these are entire trees that have to come down, or just
20 of them are entire and 10 are major
So
pruning.
he's writing a grant.
Yep.
Looking for funds.
Yeah, and she just wanted to, she wasn't sure that I should sign it without telling the board, and Mark's been her liaison, so she talked to Mark a bunch, and she called me today because she was nervous that maybe, I don't know, that
She actually told me the other night at Legion. so
Yeah.
she-
She's-
8/16, that's when she has to send it.
Yeah,
in.
so I told her if we needed a resolution, we could do it at the next meeting, but I can just sign it, but that's fine.
Surprises, but it works out, it's within, and I'll tell you what, like I said, I was in Clayton yesterday, and I came back to the village. I'm like, God, our canopy is so much better here.
Yeah.
It is, it's very, I mean, it's worth its weight in gold to come into a village where you really have a nicely manicured canopy, and so she works hard at it,
It cuts, I bet we save more in AC
I bet you're right, yeah,
than it cost us,
I bet you're right.
you know,
Because of the shade.
yeah.
So,
I don't know how I remember this on my own, but the cell phone thing.
Oh,
So they call them pigs. It's a little generator and a cell tower. They bring them to events.
or cows too.
Or maybe it was cows. Maybe it was cows. I was like, oh, it's a farm animal. It's probably cow. You're right. Pig's the one that goes through a pipe.
Yes.
But, so I asked him about it, and I think, because we can also get data for population, or not population, visitation. We can get load data on the cell tower, so we know how many people come to different events. The issue was the barracks gets one for the 1812,
You do.
and it is close enough that it compensates for Can-Am as well. Verizon, generally, they cost 40 to 50 grand to deploy. They try to do it for a month or so. I think, given the 4th of July, we should have them deploy it at the beginning of July and then carry it through.
Is July, is Verizon 6, and I was reading about that, thinking initially. Wow, it's another expense for events. And then I read that Verizon actually gets billed from certain jurisdictions because they roll them in all the time, because
Yeah.
Verizon.
Yeah, it's
needs
their
to
responsibility.
pay
Yeah,
extra
so we don't have to
for
pay
that.
them.
We don't have to pay.
I didn't know that you could charge them. That's funny.
Yeah.
They might, that might be a hard
Right,
conversation,
but
but
at least
it's worth
a net-
asking.
It's a net neutral. I'm
Yeah,
fine with
and
that.
then they said that the construction up on the tower should alleviate it to some extent, but we won't know for sure until it's done,
Yeah.
like what the new 5G antennas get
That's
us.
good. That's good.
But I'm gonna.
Did they-
Peggy wanted me to wait to sign the antenna replacements for the tower till we do a resolution next meeting. The guy said that's fine.
Yep.
BCA gave them a few things that they wanted them to keep in mind when they swap the wires out. But basically, we won't be able to see any change, so it doesn't need to go before the planning board. They're just swapping out tech on the light tower to improve.
And it's just
cell
on
service.
right now, right?
Yeah.
Because we have 2 or 3 up there.
Yeah, So-
Before we go, I don't know if Mark was here when you were asking about moving the August meeting.
Right, I was just gonna mention
Oh.
to Alex and Mark, I'm out of town
August 8th.
5th through the 15th, but I would be
Sure.
back in time on the 15th if we wanted to push it back a week.
I'm kind of in the opposite boat. I was gonna try and get, MG has to go once a month to Chicago, and with the new baby, I was gonna go for a couple days after our meeting.
Maybe the day after our meeting, but I would be back in time for the 15th.
Right.
I think her injection's on the 15th now, because she got delayed from the stupid fever. Let me check. What
Oh, yeah.
dates? Because I just had assumed I was good after the 8th. You leave on the 5th?
Right, that's
You
Saturday, right?
don't do the 4th?
Friday meetings.
We won't have a lot of people here.
I'm out on the 15th through the 21st.
Okay.
Are you able to Zoom on the 8th?
Do you want to do the 3rd, the week before, like Thursday the 3rd?
I can.
Next week.
We can't do. Oh, that would be
It's
next
coming
week.
quick, though.
Well, it just means we need to announce it by Thursday.
I was gonna say, we needed to talk about it to have Peggy change the date and
Right.
do all of that.
I think it sounds like the 15th is gonna be worse for 2 people, so either we keep it the 8th or we move it to the 3rd or 4th.
Either's fine.
When September is it early or a little late? September's is the 12th, so we could push it out.
Cause we were talking about it, I'll probably be in LA. In September, but I'll call in, I can call in. If
For
there's,
September.
if there's one of us missing, it's not a big deal. I mean, one of us,
That's-
you can call in,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
we made that law.
Yeah, no, if you want to, we just leave it.
okay.
The only thing that I want to make sure is that
Oh. the
agreement with the
agreement
school is ready for a
Yeah.
resolution and then for you to
Okay.
sign.
It's a one and done. It's not a review, so I think we.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's just the date. Like, I think he means
We
the
need to
earliness of
approve
it.
on the
Yeah.
8th, So that
Yeah.
it's in
Right.
process.
Yeah,
and
that's
please
fine.
vote.
But as long as, I think if
You
we,
already circulated, right? Was essentially gonna be it unless there's some.
Yes.
change.
if the lawyer review takes longer, then we'll have to just do a special
We'll
meeting.
have to have Jim look at it because it's a legal document.
He can do it quick if we tell him.
I think.
You have an idea when the school's insurance companies can be done doing what they need
I'm
to do?
thinking maybe tomorrow
Okay,
or the next
Okay.
day.
Why don't we get that to Jim then tomorrow?
Okay.
as soon as you get it to
Tell
Jim.
Peggy to send it to Jim tomorrow, then we know he'll
Yeah, we'll
have
have
it.
it back. And we can tell him we need it by the 8th.
And I, again, it was modeled after. One that's already being used by.
Sure.
Schmo and Belgian Schmo, Lime Central, and what's hot lime, so.
Good.
We didn't reinvent the wheel here.
No, yeah.
Good. Makes
All right.
sense.
So we're gonna keep it August 8th then.
Yeah. I probably won't
You all right?
be available to call in.
That's fine.
It's okay,
So-
I'll vote for you.
All
All
right,
right.
so are we calling this meeting?
Yeah, anybody?
Make motion to adjourn our final planning session. Oh, I'm sorry, real quick.
It's not
Next
the
up-
final, we need.
Next step is
we
to
need to do-
prioritize.
Do we want to do that individually
Individually.
or do you want to do that?
It might need to be done by department. Like I will prioritize with the DPW and.
If you want, I can throw columns in there for each of us and we can just do 1 through 5 and then we can average them out and see what they are and then. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you link me to make sure I have the right sheet? Cause I know we have like a bunch.
There, we're all.
Yes.
Just the one that you just were working on, just shoot that over. Cause there's like 3 or 4. I know one was mine. All right, I'm gonna, made a motion. I'll second the motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
No decision.
I'm gonna turn off the Zoom.
No decision were made. And
We're all